Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Payne. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Crypto. We have Miles, head of research at Blu Ocean Games Guild, again with us. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it always. I wanted to talk about specifically a lot of the play-to-earn games that we've been running into, because we brought this up in a past episode a couple weeks ago that the volume seems to have been increasing of the amount of play-to-earn titles, but particularly there's ones that are standing out to me.
Yeah, it's very interesting which games were chosen or that people are choosing to play right now on a daily basis versus the games that, you know, we were super excited to see at events like the Web3 Gamer Awards, and the games that have been producing the really cool trailers and the awesome gameplay videos and the betas that are fun to play.
And there's what, like 3,100, 3,700 known play-to-earn projects currently?
There's
like,
a lot.
It's massive.
There's thousands. Yeah,
right?
I've got at least, I think I have 4,000 on my list to go through. And some of them, Lord knows what they actually are, you know what I mean? And I don't think that my list of top 20 will really be changing a whole bunch anytime soon.
And that's kind of our challenge, is like sifting through to figure out what's the gems in the rough.
Yeah, but there's definitely some out there. There's even in the last week or two, I've sort of been doing what I like to call speed dating, and basically I speed date Web3 projects, and I can go through a Web3 project and kind of get an idea of what I'm getting myself into. Not whether or not I'm confident in it, but at least what I'm getting myself into in terms of what it actually is.
Yeah.
In between, 5 and 10 minutes. So I've been doing a lot of that lately, just to try to see if I can find something that keeps me interested long enough to go down the rabbit hole.
What was any that kind of surprised you recently?
Well, there's a couple of them. There's one game. I believe it's called ArchWorld. Okay. And it's a game that's based on the popular MMORPG called ArchAge. Yeah. And I remember playing ArchAge when I was younger. I was like, this game is actually legitimately pretty fun, and there was, a clear meta as to what people like to play as in terms of characters, but that's okay. It still had, its fair share of complexity in terms of building and strategy, the proper, giant like scale raid fights with 40 to 60 people, and the social networking type deal that you get when you're just an avatar inside of a massive town with a bunch of other people in it, et cetera, et cetera. And it sounds like they're trying to make a proper MMORPG, Web3 enabled, with all of the sort of real money auction house streams that people have had about, MMORPGs ever since the sort of inception of Web3. You could go play this game and get a whole bunch of really rare items from a particular class and have fun playing the game, and then later on you could sell your rare items.
That's what I'm interested in, because with Big Time, when I found, Big Time got me excited and disappointed simultaneously, because when I was like, oh, sweet, finally an MMORPG, that's the first thing my head went to, is NFTs as loot. NFTs as the items that you pick up, and they were like, and then Big Time was like, no, it's going to be cosmetic only, and I'm like, oh.
So, okay. And I understand why they did that. The reason why they did that is because there's this really massive conflict, sort of going on between people who want this real money auction house type deal where you can buy and sell your actual items that affect your gameplay, and then this other sort of group of people who are worried that will constitute paying to win. You know what I mean?
But the truth is, a lot of games are pay to win.
The ethos behind that, but it's like, if you think about World of Warcraft as a really good example, or Diablo 2 is actually an even better example. Yep. Diablo 2 had this forum called D2JSP that people used to visit, and you could basically buy and sell your items for forum currency.
Yep.
And people were buying, and everybody used D2JSP who knew what the heck they were doing when they were playing Diablo 2, because if you wanted to get the runes that you wanted or be connected with the person who had the item that you needed, that's the person that you would talk to. And then it started as people just going, okay, here's a forum for you to sort of post your trades and other people will reply. And then eventually they came to the point where, like, well, let's implement the forum gold system. We'll get the forum gold system going. And then it went further to the point where people were farming this game, one game that is a D2GSP game, example Diablo 2, to get forum gold in order to get something that is in a different game, example World of Warcraft, which was also connected to D2JSP. And then it went even further than that, where you had people just mining gold in World of Warcraft and buying and selling it, which inflated the price of gold in World of Warcraft to the point where people could not play the game regularly anymore, because any item that was worth even a little bit of money was inflated by 1,000 times, and your average person.
And I remember D3 with the in-game auction house before they squashed.
Listen, the real money auction house phase of Diablo 3 was actually one of the most fun eras of Diablo 3. The game was legitimately super, super difficult, and the items that were considered, expensive or not, were not necessarily the items that were good or not, because you were making your own build.
Dude, I was making $20 to $100 a day.
Yeah, I played that game, and I was able to make my money back on what I bought the game for in about, I want to say, 2 weeks.
Nice.
And that's awesome.
I maximized it. I figured out the best runs, the best items.
Yeah,
the best to sell.
absolutely.
And then it did get to a point where the $100 days were dwindling, the $50 days were dwindling, and then I kind of plateaued at $20 a day and quickly realized I'm making like $2 an hour for how much time I'm putting in, and then I was like, it's not quite worth it anymore. But that experience as a player, to be able to like, no, I'm playing this for money, was revolutionizing for me as a kid.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you were like, it was a free and open market with actual value that you could take and use to further yourself inside the game. You know what I mean?
Looking forward to an MMORPG.
What it makes me think of actually is my favorite MMORPG when I was a kid, Ragnarok Online. I played a lot of Ragnarok Online when I was a kid. There was a kajillion different items that you could buy and sell in that game, and every person had the opportunity of starting a character that was a merchant, making their own shop.
Yep.
And the thing that was really interesting to me is that a lot of the things that other people valued as not very valuable, I was able to put together, in one way or another to make valuable, to make a character that was able to win in a PvP battle, or to make a character that was able to tank a particular boss or something like that. And what's interesting to me is that there's these people who are arguing that, if you make a free and open market, then there will be pay to win, are also not seeing that they will be able to be resourceful with the things that are not necessarily everybody's freaking out about and trying to inflate the price of. There'll be opportunity there. You know what I mean? So I think there's a balance to be had there, and there's like this ethical discussion to be had about open markets in video games and pay to win, you know what I mean, as an actual concept.
But we see it in so many other Play2Earn games. Like, look at a lot of the shooting games. You can buy better weapons, but Evio is a good example. Your sword, like buying better stuff does help you in the game. Just like Undead Blocks, same thing.
But it doesn't affect it doesn't affect how, like, example, you can't buy a nicer sword that does more damage than the first sword.
Undead Blocks it does, right? So if you want a shotgun instead of an Uzi and the shotgun does more damage, you got to buy it, right? So you need to upgrade your weapon to be able to handle the zombie hordes.
Yeah.
People aren't complaining about that model. It's just for some reason MMORPG kind of has this perception around it that there is that kind of split of thought. But I want to be able to. The open market. That's an MMORPG I love Big Time. I think Big Time's positioned to be very successful in the industry.
I have to honestly agree with that. I think it would be a lot of fun to be able to play a game and go, okay, well, all the new players who are going to start joining this game are going to need this particular card because it gives them the ability to teleport, and everybody needs to be able to teleport.
Yes.
And so I could make a meager, savings just farming cards for people.
See, I'm more
to
interested in that
things like
aspect of like the financial perspective rather than just cosmetic, because cosmetics are nice, but there's going to be a certain ceiling.
So for my example is in Ragnarok Online, because again, I played that game for probably the better part of my entire life. There was a lot of people that I knew, probably 10% of the people that I knew that played this game who you would consider a support class, but with all that they actually did was stand around in town with their priest and offer people teleports to places for money, which they would spend on fancy hats.
Yeah, that's true.
That was a whole lifestyle right there. Yes, one entire life. And you know what? You can't fret that. There were some cool ass hats in that game. Honestly.
And that's why Big Time's working.
So Big Time is going to work. Yeah.
Cosmetics is important.
But they need to have both. I feel like Big Time needs to have both.
Yeah. So I'm happy to hear that about Arc. One game that caught my attention that I have actually really enjoyed. It's on Epic Games right now, but you do need a beta code to access it. Was the Machines Arena.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah.
I've put like 20 hours into that game in the last 2 days.
Nice. Honestly. It is a ton of fun.
It is a great game. I absolutely love that game.
And the fact that it's already on Epic.
I know they're going to make more game modes. I know there's going to be more heroes. I like that the heroes they're relatively balanced. I actually looked at the stats of them and was like min-maxing the stats of them, and no, they are balanced.
Yes.
There is a short range person who does high DPS. There is a long range person who does high DPS. There's a short range person who does low DPS tank. There's a high range person who does high.
They did
low
a good
DPS
job
tank.
at that.
They have everything balanced, and it's such a fun game to play.
It is.
My only issue with it is that if I play it at 2:00 in the morning, I am playing with 3 bots against a team of 4 bots.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, I'm having so much fun playing this game. Why is everybody else out there clicking Alien Worlds and they're not willing to come and play a couple of games of
it's interesting because I think
where's that disconnect?
I think it's about the financial aspect, right? We kind of talked about this in the other episode. We're seeing the most active daily users still playing clickers because there's returns there. Yeah, they're not as astronomical as some of these other games, but it kind of goes to show that people are still viewing this as a DeFi opportunity and a financial instrument instead of just for fun. And I think that'll always be the case.
I think that says a lot about the audience too. The audience who positions themselves as gamers, but who a lot of them are actually traders.
Mm-hmm. And now I'll bring up a good point that I've kind of realized here, because especially over the bear run, this has become apparent to me. I was at a point where I remember even joking with my friends. I was like, I'm never going to play a non-NFT game ever again. Like, I have no interest in playing my PS5, or I was at that point for quite a few months because I was so interested and invested and, you know, obviously the game guild and everything we were doing, where I was literally like, no, I'm not playing traditional games ever again. I don't see a need to.
I absolutely remember that. I would go and I would do like my Farmer's World thing, and then there would be some other game that I would play, and then, oh, it's time to play this game. Like Metagear was a fun one.
There's so many opportunities. Spend 30 minutes doing the
Metagear thing, and then by the time you were done playing all of those games, you're like, wow, my day's like basically over.
Yeah, but there was a lot of money being made. So it made me realize too, like with the bear market and earning potentials going down, and we as a game guild got lucky. I would say we found a couple, like Karma vs Zombie has been really good.
Yeah, a couple of games that are holding up in earnings, but are just tons of fun.
But it's not something that we would put like Sunflower Land is another good one where, you know, I would play that quite often.
It's so cute and it's tons of fun.
But now I don't, because the earning potentials there is not very good, and the amount of time it takes to do the trading through their Discord and coordinate all that. That's
true.
So I've kind of gone back to traditional games a bit because I'm like, yeah, I do enjoy PlayStation games. I do enjoy AAA. But it made me realize that it's the financial opportunity that ultimately
I don't know if it's necessarily entirely financial, because here's another thing. You look at a lot of the games that we're playing in the Web3 space right now, a lot of them are in early alpha or in beta, and they're still in the middle of developing their thing, and developing a thing takes a long time. But there are Web2 equivalents to that. The Web2 equivalent to that for me is actually, what's it called? Baldur's Gate 3. Okay. Baldur's Gate 3 is a beautiful and absolutely amazing game that really well represents what Dungeons and Dragons like is to me, and it's
early access for nearly
amazing.
2 years,
and it's such a great working engine. And I played like 120 hours of it when it came out, and I installed it
with every character.
I beat it, and then I put it down.
Class,
and guess what? I haven't picked it back up again, because guess what? They haven't finished development yet, and I'm not ready to play it again until it's done.
And actually, I think it's August or September. It's supposed to be released.
It's supposed to be done. And when it does finish, I'm going to go back and play it. Well, guess what? If that was the same with Sunflower Land, if they're like, hey, the fully finished version of our game that's going to be amazing is going to be done in September, that's when I'm going to pick that game up.
Same here.
I put 50 hours into Sunflower Land already because I just love exploring in that game and seeing what people make.
But it made me realize...
But that's when I'm going to go back and put another 50.
It made me realize that the financial opportunity was this kind of foundation for my inspiration and motivation.
Definitely it's a part of it.
Right? And when that kind of became to a point where I didn't need to spend all my time in these games because we had found a couple of the titles that were working well and we had our systems, I had more free time to explore, which was a blessing because it's allowed me to help develop the channel and do more research on different projects and kind of build the business and stuff. But it's the money, you know, like, and so when we see these reports about all these daily active users and the most popular play to earn games, all of them are pretty much clicker oriented.
Well, and there's also, you'll see these videos. Makes sense to me. I like to follow the social trail, and one of the social trails that I like to follow is when you see people in the last 2 to 8 weeks making a video about a particular project going, I made X amount of dollars in one day playing this game, doing this thing. You know what I mean? That whether or not they actually did that, and no matter how they did it or whatever it is, that whole video format is a sign that people are doing that. Thing.
Because we've seen a ton of that during the last bull run, and then the bear market happened to kind of...
It just disappeared because nobody wanted to talk about that thing because they weren't making money playing really anything.
And it was controversial. Oh, play to earn's dead. Play to earn shouldn't be for investment. It should be for
And now
fun.
Today you see the cautious YouTuber going, hey, I made $26 a day or whatever it is playing Alien Worlds.
People forget, like...
How did I do it?
People were making like 10 grand a day in some of these play to earn. And yes, there was larger upfront investments. You know, your upfront investment is important, but... Even still, the amount of earnings that people... It was huge. It was
a crazy thing.
And I mean, even for us, without getting into the numbers too much, like Farmer's World was absolutely insane, the amount of returns.
There's no traditional space in the world where somebody can put their money... I think I'm going to put my money into this thing. It goes up by 1,200% overnight. And they're like, yeah, okay, I'm good. I'm going to sell 50% now. Like, Farmer's World was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy.
It was a really interesting experience to go through. And we've seen it with Axie Infinity too. That's another really good example. You know, Axie basically changed the Philippines for the better.
Axie Infinity was the first game that I played, and I was like, wow, I'm making enough money that this is worth it, and I'm having a ton of fun and want to like min-max it and like theory craft. You know what I mean? Yeah. That was a first for me. I was enamored.
I remember seeing pictures of people in the Philippines with like BMWs and buying cars and paying
I was stoked to get a research grant from Blu Ocean Games Guild. It was like $20 USD. Go and buy some Axies and see what that's all about. I bought some Axies. They had just released their Origins beta. I bought Axies that were good in the Origins beta because that was going to be the meta.
Yep.
Not Axies that were good in the current meta of the game, which was now on its way out.
Yep.
And then my Axes went up by a lot in a market that was on its way down.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that.
Just because everybody else was like, oh no, this guy's on the right wavelength, and these guys are on the right wavelength. You should have this and that and this if you're playing this game mode.
Then
okay,
the value went up.
So the value of those things went up, and it was just like, and I wasn't like tournament winning by any stretch of the imagination. I was a solid 8 out of 10, but I was an 8 out of 10 using Axes that I only got for $4 a piece instead of spending $1,000 or $500 a piece like other people were spending.
So here's kind of the main thing I realized is the popularity is extremely important right now, because it's the most popular games today and during the bear market where most of the liquidity is going to go as it runs, because if it already has that proof of concept, the active user base, when people are researching into GameFi, they're going to look at what are the most popular, what are other people, and naturally those are the ones that are going to see the most liquidity coming back.
That's true.
So that's something that I know we're kind of keeping a close eye on our game guild as well, is like what's actually popular now, not just what has grandiose promises of being the next
or what do
World
we think
Warcraft
will be fun,
or
because that's important too. We do want to have things that we think are fun to do as a games guild, to play as a games guild.
Well, that's the magic formula. AAA game, ton of fun, and huge earning potential like clickers, and we haven't seen that combination yet.
We've seen it best 2s out
but
of 3.
we know it's bubbling up. We know it's being worked on. Heroes of Mavi is a great example. That to me is the home run opportunity.
I'm seriously excited about it. Not just because it is an exciting NFT game that's going to be fun to play, but because of the state of the actual market right now. And there's probably several other game guilds that are similarly invested in several other games. We're invested in several other games also. But I'm excited to see a bull run happen and to see people start caring about these assets again, and us having just stayed firm and kept our interest in the project, and that being rewarded now. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
And the game genre, in my opinion, is one of the best for blockchain. It's a resource management game where you're incentivized to spend your earnings to speed up the progress. And what's the most valuable thing to everyone in life? Time.
That's right.
Right? So the model, I mean, that's why Clash of Clans just did so incredibly good. So, I mean, there's a ton of games we could list right here that we've been paying attention to, maybe even a short list of like 20 that we feel are positioned really, really well. But I wouldn't even doubt that when the next bull run happens, we're going to see these fly-by-night clicker games just come out of nowhere.
So it's almost interesting to me because there's a couple of other games in my head, and actually you even were one of the people who made me realize this. A lot of people in the past, especially during the bull run, were buying and selling and trading Dusk and had no idea what it was for. They just knew it was volatile, it had liquidity, and people were trading in it, having no idea that Million on Mars even existed. The project was, and then so later on I go, hey, remember that thing that you were talking about that you were buying? It's like that stuff that you trade. Oh yeah, Dusk. Yeah, I still keep an eye on that. It's Million on Mars, and you were like, wait, what?
Yeah,
and I just feel like there has to be a pretty big collection of people who are just like you, who are trading just based on the liquidity and the sort of the health of the actual token, and not even knowing or looking for whatever the actual project is behind it that's powering it.
That's right. It's the same thing with shitcoins. A lot of people kind of ape in. They're just like, yeah, I know 9 out of 10 of these are gonna fail, but I just need to hit it with one.
Yeah, in their mind, they're all just meme coins.
So a lot of and a lot of people aren't doing research into the tokens. They're just like, oh, it's really volatile. Let's throw some money, see what happens. I feel like Play2Earn is kind of like that too, and especially with the nature of the Wax network with the Alcor exchange. All these tokens would be listed there, but there's no way to tell what project they're related to. The exchange doesn't say, this token is this project.
That's part of the reason why I was incentivized to start making my research division the way that it is in the first place.
So when I seen Dusk, I was seeing like 10, 15% jumps in a day. So I was just like, yeah, this is just a good investment vehicle. Let's throw some money in. And yeah, I think we made like quite a bit of money just doing that, which then got filtered into other things. But yeah, I didn't even know what project it was for. I just knew, hey, this is a volatile coin. There's a lot of opportunity here.
It's so amusing.
But I think it does highlight the fact that there are a lot of other individuals in the same boat. They're not necessarily looking to play these games. They're looking for the investment opportunity and the upside, because if they're in DeFi or they're in shitcoins, Play2Earn is that riskier kind of next level, almost, you could say. But
we almost have this niche of like people who you expect to be in front of their computer day trading a lot because they are day traders.
Yep.
But if you're in front of your computer day trading a lot and you're kind of just sitting in front of your computer, what do you end up doing? You play mini games. So if you make mini games that are related to the day trading that you're doing, well, of course there's going to be interest.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But is that going to be interesting to a traditional gamer? Absolutely not. which is why a lot of traditional gamers aren't going, oh, I can't wait to play Million on Mars tomorrow, because they're not day traders. They don't care about that.
Yeah. So I think we'll always have these kind of two fields of groups of like people using it as a financial instrument for gains, which is why we might just see some clickers come out soon during the next bull run that are actually viable and worth investing in and worth playing, you know, having the knowledge we have from before. But then there's also the fact that we need fun games, AAA games.
My forecast is that we're going to have games like cornucopias that will appeal to both, but unknowingly. There's going to be the one unknowing group that are playing the clicker game, they're having fun with the clicker game, they're earning from the clicker game, they can trade, and they're not realizing why it's not hyperinflationary, or maybe they are realizing and they don't care, and the reason why it's not hyperinflationary is because there is a second system, a second game, or a series of other games that are across all platforms, in the case of cornucopias, where there are actual fun things to do with those things that you are farming and or mining.
Yes.
And then, so there's going to be people who are just dumping money in so that they can do those things, not even caring about the financial system thing. There's going to be people who are doing both, where they're farming on the one side and then using their earnings to play the game. And then there's going to be people who are just farming on the one side, and having all of those different kinds of people be able to do their thing together. There's going to be people who are creating NFTs with their art.
Yep.
You know what I mean? For example, maybe they want to like design a couch inside of a house inside of cornucopias.
It's kind of like traditional games. You've got all kinds of gamers, absolutely. Casual, esports, all.
Yeah,
between.
I think it's those projects that are sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? That are catering to all of the different aspects of people who are interested in this Web3 space.
Have the most upside.
They
potential,
have the most upside potential, the most my confidence in my books.
Yeah. Well, that was great. Thanks for talking about it. I'm sure a lot of you guys really appreciated it. You know, we're learning so much about this industry every day still, you know, and I mean, it's evolving at a faster pace than anyone can really keep up with, which is why I'm so excited. So I hope you all enjoyed it all. Make sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, to stay up to date with all the great Play2Earn content and our awesome conversations.
Thank you for watching our videos. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have you on for another one soon, and we can talk about other stuff and news and other things going on in this industry.
Would be great.
Yeah, and until next time, cheers.